Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're still a couple of minutes out, so we'll give a little bit more time for people to join. All right, we're just about a minute out. Thank you, everybody who's joined early. Just give everybody one more minute and we'll get started. All right, well, I've got 1 o'clock on the dot Eastern time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. My name is Cesar Rivas. I'm the National Sales Executive for Sound Payments, and one of the lines of businesses that I represent is Sound POS, which is why we're going to be I'll be presenting to you today. All right. This is the second workshop of its kind. I'll be doing these once a month at the end of the month, last Wednesday of every month. You can actually go to our website and check out, when we have these available. You just go to the Sound Payments website. Here you go. And just click on the POS section and you'll see where we've got the workshops right here. You go to Sound POS Workshops. You have all the dates listed there. You've got the contents of the workshops, and you can sign up right on the spot. I'm gonna give it 1 second here. I don't have the quickest internet. So this is today's workshop. We'll be going over butchers, but you've got the rest of the workshops here you can sign up for. All right, so looking forward to everyone's participation. Remember that these workshops as well, whenever they're held, we also record them on YouTube. So if you just go to YouTube and do a query on Sound Payments, you're going to find our channel and you'll find these workshops listed on here. All right. You go to Sound Payment, you can choose Sound POS. It'll actually be even more detailed. You'll see the last workshop, which was delivered about a month ago, more or less. All right. So all of these are going to be available. You can even sign up for our Sound Payments channel. Any new videos that you may need to actually do your job will be available there as well. All right. All right, everyone. So the idea of these workshops is that the first 15 minutes, I'll introduce something new, different type of retail establishment, different type of features and so forth. And then the last 15 minutes is going to be kind of just an overall view. So for any of you that have already seen that overall view, you won't have to stay on. You can just drop off, but do participate in the first 15 minutes. Now, I will not be taking any questions during the workshop. I want to go ahead and limit the time, but I have on the screen, you should see my email address. Feel free to take it down and just shoot me any emails, any questions or comments you may have about the workshop. Okay. I wanted to just make sure that, the idea is that we empower the reseller, the ISO, and the merchant to really be able to customize their POS and be in control. So last week's contact, I talked a little bit about the pack store and where you would control your terminals. Today, we're just using the pack store simply so I can share the screen. We also talked a little bit about the reseller website, which is where maybe you or the reseller, depending on your sales structure, where the stores will be created for your actual merchants. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about the store portal itself, which is what the merchant will have access to, so they can get information, update the system, and so forth remotely from a computer, a tablet, or even a cell phone. Okay. So for today's, we're going to be doing a butcher shop, as I mentioned. And just a couple of things I wanted to point out here. So our system does have the ability to work based on weight. Now, mind you, currently it's not going to be connected to scale, nor is it able to read. Let's say, there's some scales that actually print out a barcode so you can scan, but it'll be able to read the label, and you'll be able to simply, bring up the sale for whatever the weight of the label is. You have the ability also to add additional charges. So, for example, in the case of this POS I'll be sharing with you today, you'll be able to see how you can do a extra charge, for example, for things that are deboned and things like that. All right. Today I also wanted to point out that you have the ability to create different POS roles. So we're going to switch over to the actual terminal. I'm using an A920, which is the fully portable one. I'm going to be logging in. First thing I wanted to show you is the charge I just mentioned. So again, the terminal doesn't have the ability to read a barcode, but for example, any type of these cuts you can see on here. All right. So we've got choice prime. Let's say on the prime, we do the ribeye. So we have the option to, whether it's bone out or not. If it is bone out, then we charge an extra $1 for that. Okay. And you have to choose the weight. So on here, I've got it listed as ounces, but you could do it by pounds or whatever that may be. So again, it's not able to read the barcode, but you can just submit what the weight is, and it'll calculate for you what the cost is going to be. Okay. In this case, is $10 a pound of ribeye. All right. You can go ahead and make the payments here. Choose different forms of payment that we have. And you can even configure your receipt, which I'm going to show you now. It's easier actually to configure the receipt if you go to the terminal side on the computer. It just makes it a little bit easier. So I want to share with you what that would look like. So we're going to go back to this screen here, and you go ahead and set up the POS, the configuration. This is where you would set up the receipt. And I say it's easier here because you have the ability to upload even logos on here and really customize how you want the receipt to look. That's what the receipt would look like. This is where you would actually customize. You can add your header, footer. You decide, whether you want a barcode or not, whether you want a tip line or not, and so forth. So this is where you would actually configure that. One other thing that I do want to show you on the terminal itself is the different roles. When you go to the maintenance function on the terminal, and you have also access to this on the web portal, but I wanted to show you from here, you can create different levels of restriction as far as what anybody has access to. So in this case, I've got an administrator, cashier, warehouse, and I've got an actual supervisor even. Okay. If I go into each one of these roles, I choose what they have access to and what they don't have access to. Okay. And you have even in greater detail. And I apologize, the screen is not that clear because I've zoomed in. It's a small screen on A920, and we're looking at the actual screen of the device. But this would be all the areas where you get to choose what somebody has access to and not. Okay. And then when you actually create a role, which is the users function now, and for this store, I've got 3 people that have been hired. Okay, on here, you get to choose, you get to input the birth date in case you do have any age-restricted products. You get to choose whether the person is required to log in or not, because the system is able to track hours, breaks, and things like that. And you even have a barcode, which, once again, if you go to the store itself, and you go under your employee maintenance, you're able to print these barcodes out. So if the store, for example, utilizes any type of an employee badge, an ID badge. You can just use a regular printer, maybe a label printer or something like that. Print this out and put it on the badge. So it gives you that ability as well. And then I wanted to show you one more thing in terms of configuration. And I'll show you this on the terminal itself. Okay. And this is for the actual payment screen configuration. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, see if we can get a little more clarity. But it's actually under the settings. And on here, you get to configure even further what the screen can look like. All right. So whether you want to use the customer display or not, you have the ability to configure that. Whether you require a signature for the credit card or not, you know, tip options on the customer display. So you have a series of other configuration items that you can customize what that receipt is going to look like, but also what the screen is going to look like, what the customer is going to sign. Okay. All right. So with that, actually, I conclude the first section of the workshop. So just to recap again, we looked at the ability to sell item by weight and add fees such as something that's bonus or not. We looked at the different POS roles as well, the employee time and any restricted age items with the employee by registering them, and being able to print a barcode as well with their name and so forth. The receipt configuration, and then some of the other options for the payment screen configuration. All right. All right. So for those of you who actually did see the first workshop, all right, you can go ahead and drop off. This is kind of a repeat of what we're going to present just briefly. But for anybody who's new, you're more than welcome to stay on. All right. So just talk to a little bit about who we are. So we are located in Jacksonville, Florida, and we develop technology solutions in the payment services industry. In addition to POS, we also provide some other web services and also the petro industry. We do have another location in close to Tampa Bay in St. Petersburg, where we work in terms of sales, especially for the petro. And then we have a couple of locations worldwide for R&D. We work primarily in terms of hardware with PACs, but we do also partner with other companies. And we are not an ISO or a gateway or processor. So we just develop the technology and provide it for you so that you can serve your clients. So just an overall view of the POS. It's cloud-based. It's very simple to utilize, secure. All of the devices have both a credit card payment terminal as well as the actual POS terminal. And the credit card terminal is the only one that actually reads the data from the credit card. It doesn't share it with the POS because it's cloud-based. Again, it's very secure. And one of the things that I always mention about this, it's really meant for a broad range of industries, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the one area where maybe we restrict to utilize this POS would be with full service restaurants because it doesn't have the functionality of reservations, things like that. So these are some of the main features I wanted to point out. So you have the ability to manage inventory. Some POSs, the first upload is really responsibility of the POS provider. We actually provide the reseller and the merchant a tool where they just fill out an Excel spreadsheet and then do that initial upload. They can include things like pictures, barcodes, everything included. And again, because this is cloud-based, you can also manage the inventory remotely. All right. It also has control over employee hours. Now, it's not a system that's going to calculate payroll or anything like that, but it does track hours, clock in, breaks, and things like that. And then that can be exported in an Excel format, which usually Excel is the format that's most compatible with most payroll processing software. It has the ability to track customer accounts. So not only their personal information, but you have two features which the POS provides. Number one, the ability to create actual credit accounts for each customer. and track them. You can even take a picture. These devices all have cameras, so you can even take a picture of the customer for ID purposes. And then the other feature in terms of the customer itself is the ability to track a loyalty program by points. So you have the ability to set how many points are generated per dollar, and then how many points are necessary for purchases. You have the ability in terms of sales tax to customize, create different rates, and then combine those rates to create different categories. Because it's cloud-based, it's constantly synchronizing with the cloud. Every 5 minutes for the overall information, and every minute for any transactions. And you can modify how often, but that's the minimum. It actually even alerts you when it hasn't synchronized. So if you've got multiple devices at the same location, they're all going to be updating each other constantly. So one sale will be reflected in all of them. Same thing if you've got devices elsewhere. You can synchronize still if you've got a single type of inventory. And of course, in terms of the owner or the manager, they have the ability then to view what's going on each terminal, each store remotely using a computer, a tablet, even a cell phone. For the cell phone, we recommend that they utilize Microsoft Edge as the browser in landscape mode. It comes with a series of reports, both on the terminal as well as on the back end on the portal. So a lot of these reports on the portal side, like inventory, transactions, customers, and things like that, can also be exported both in Excel and also in PDF format for reporting purposes. And then you've got reports specifically that are on the terminal, your tip report, transactions, and so forth. And then, as we mentioned previously, with the web portal, you're able to monitor your business real time. In terms of how our cloud-based POS is compatible, it is certified with all major U.S. payment processors. So you can monitor the devices, the transactions, change pricing, everything from a remote location, and even new services, updates for the firmware can be done automatically because it is cloud-based. So there's no type of interference with the day-to-day operations whenever any type of an update needs to be done. So you've got both the on-site, which are some of the screens you see on the left. You've got two different types of units there. The one that we were sharing, which was the one you can see on the top, is the A920. So the orientation is more of a vertical instead of the horizontal. And then these are like the desktop ones and so forth, but they all have the same functionality. And then you can see on the web what the portal looks like. This is the dashboard. And then this is what it would actually even look on the cell phone. All right. In terms of hardware, all of the terminals that we utilized are PAX devices. So the whole E series, the A920. So you've got a combination between countertop and Bluetooth. Now, all of our terminals have a battery. So the advantage there obviously is that if there is any kind of power interruption, that the transaction is not going to be lost. Now, the ones that are countertop, for the most part, they don't have a very long battery life. Only the ones that are portable have a couple of hours, but at least it would allow that if there's any kind of disruption with the power to not lose the transaction. And if anybody is carrying a cell phone with them, the person who's running the transaction, and they activate their mobile hotspot, they can connect the terminal to the mobile hotspot and finish doing the transaction. So even with that kind of a disruption, you're able to complete doing the business. Some of the target industries, I did mention at the beginning that you've got a broad range of retails, and that for full service restaurants, it's not really advisable, but nonetheless, it's still advisable for the food industry. Any type of a quick serve, fast food type of restaurant, it works well. It connects with your network printers, so you're able to have a printer in the kitchen, and it doesn't connect directly to the terminal; it just connects on the network itself. You can have multiple printers, as a matter of fact. So if you've got any kind of a quick serve, let's say sushi, where you've got the cold bar and you've got the hot bar. The nice thing about this system is that you're able to choose on the actual food itself which printers you need to activate. All right. It's also good for the food industry for any storefront like we're doing today, the butcher shop, an ice cream parlor, something like that. It's also really good. In terms of retail, it has a broad range, garments from boutiques to thrift stores, and things like that. You can keep track of inventory by items themselves, but let's say in the case of shirts where you may have the same SKU for all sizes of shirts, you can actually maintain inventory by the attribute of size, for example. For grocery stores, also good for mini marts, bodegas, small grocers. I would say not so much a large grocery store with lanes and so forth. Remember that the payment terminal is integrated into the device, so you don't have a separate terminal for that. But for anything smaller than that, it definitely it works out. And we are continuing to add new features. So we are looking at the ability to, for example, connecting maybe an external scale or the ability to read barcodes coming from a scale. All right. Other types of retailers, like hardware stores, for example, again, a very strong feature when it comes to the inventory. So definitely recommend that. Party supply store, beauty supply tires as well. And in terms of resources, it comes with 24/7 merchant support. So the merchant will always have access. Now you have the choice whether you want to utilize ours or you can provide white glove, but it comes with it. You as a reseller usually have access to Sound Hub. So you've got manuals, user guides, and things like that there. You got some additional videos. Again, we continue to develop firmware updates and app updates and upgrades, which are pushed out automatically. We do provide advanced level reseller support for anything that needs to be escalated directly for you, for the reseller. And I can say we have an extremely experienced implementation team. All right. All right. So with that, it's really the end of the second workshop. Again, my name is Cesar Rivas, the National Sales Executive for Sound Payments. You've got my email address up on the screen. Any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So with that, thank you once again and have a great rest of the day.